Iranian drone used to strike an American base. A U.S. contractor has been killed, as well as 3 American servicemen or women injured. We then responded, killed 8 Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps affiliated groups, so Hezbollah, and about 8 of them have been killed. They then shot back at our base again. No one was injured. The question now is what happens next?
Yes, and we are joined by our Senior Counsel for Global Affairs, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Mike, first, as Jordan just said, an Iranian developed drone, probably put in place by or manned by, directed by Hezbollah, killed an American contractor, injured other U.S. military personnel on a base of the United States in Syria. Where does that put us? Because this is a unique situation. You had, under your administration, you had a tremendous growth and stability in the region with the Abraham Accords. I feel like we're digressing at a very rapid rate here.
Jay, we did live this for 4 years. What the Iranians understand is strength and power, and they'll do this kind of thing when they observe weakness. It does feel like this is coming unraveled, not just in this particular instance, and of course it is. Our condolences go out to the contractor, the American contractor that was killed. But it feels like it's coming unraveled in the sense of a risk is higher. The Middle East now no longer trusts the United States of America to have its back when difficult things happen. And that means the bad actors, whether it's the Houthis in Yemen or Hezbollah in Lebanon or Syria or the Iraqi militias, the Shia militias in Iraq, these folks feel freer to come after Americans because they think that the United States won't take action in response. I'm happy to see that we did. I don't know precisely. I've seen the reporting. It's been a little bit all over about how we responded. But make no mistake about it, they would not have done this. They wouldn't have flown this drone. By the way, it's probably the same type of drone that's being used by the Russians coming from Iran in Ukraine. They wouldn't have used this drone if they thought that the cost to them was going to exceed the benefit. We have to restore that deterrence. These guys in the White House just simply haven't figured out how to do that.
You know, Secretary Pompeo, what I think people, again, they're waking up to this news. They're seeing us talking about it. They might be surprised that we even had a base in this many U.S., whether it's contractors and a mix of other U.S. officials, men and women, and including officials, men and women in our armed forces. So not just CIA or contractors, but that we have 900 still in Syria. And things have been relatively calm, at least what's been reported in the news. But in Secretary Austin's written statement, which was interesting to me that he added this point because we weren't really seeing this in the news at all, that the attack followed a series of recent attacks against coalition forces in Syria by Iranian-affiliated groups. So things have been escalating in Syria. We just weren't really learning about that in the news. It wasn't being reported widely.
Jordan, it doesn't surprise me. So those soldiers have been on the ground there for quite some time. This was the force that was leading the charge to take down the caliphate during our years there when we needed the Americans on the ground to assist the indigenous forces at crushing ISIS, who was cutting people's heads off when President Obama was in office. The residual force that had remained there was attempting to secure that, provide continued stability, and deter terrorism from that region. But the fact that this has heated up, the fact that the Iranians are now feeling more free to move about the cabin, right? It's consistent with the fact that the United States for months and months and months was sitting with the Iranians at the table, trying to figure out how to make sure the Iranians had a pathway to a nuclear weapon. The fact that they knew full well that they were likely to get the sanctions lifted on their regime. The fact that the United States no longer is as close a supporter of Israel. And so the Arab states, the Gulf Arab states, are now thinking, gosh, I got to hedge my bets with Iran. All of those things are of a part. It all seems disconnected. But this all drives from a central thesis, which is that when you appease the Iranian, the world's largest state sponsor of terror that has killed hundreds of Americans and thousands of people across the world, when you appease them, they're going to take advantage of it. And we saw that today.
It's very interesting that you said this, Mike, because it's kind of looking at the backside of a tapestry. It looks really pretty on the front, and the backside, it looks like it's how did they get there to tie all these pieces in? And here's the thing that has me very concerned as someone that I've worked in this region for a long time. I've done work at the International Criminal Court in The Hague on issues involving the Middle East. But here's what has me the most concerned right now. And it seemed like in Saudi Arabia's situation, which is a complicated relationship, no doubt, and you dealt with it firsthand. But there seemed to be cooperation between the Saudis and the Israelis, and I'm not saying that doesn't exist at all now, because there was a common foe, and that was Iran. And I think that Russia was able to get in there and influence the Saudis as it relates to Iran, like you said, hedging their bets. And in every alliance you see that's dangerous, it seems like the constant right now is Iran.
I think that's true. I think it's true in large measure because Iran feels like they slipped the bit, like they were on the cusp of having to do something really difficult. And when President Biden was elected, they sent special envoy to go sit down and say, we told you to hang on. We told you to wait till President Trump and Mike Pompeo left, and things would be better, and we're going to make your life better. So you're exactly right. Think about this. So Iran providing drones to the Russians to kill Ukrainian kids. Iran now flying a drone to kill an American today. Iranians continuing to patrol the Persian Gulf in ways that put Israeli interests at risk, and the Israelis concerned about continued advancement of the Iranians in the southeastern part of Syria that threatens them in connection to Hezbollah. These are all pieces, this is your point, these are all pieces of an Iran that feels emboldened, empowered, and when that happens, the central thesis, which was that if you isolate Iran, it is better for America, it falls apart. We had them as isolated as they had ever been. The Gulf Arab states were joined alongside of it. Some of them signed the Abraham Accords, but all of them knew that the United States was serious about protecting things that mattered to their people, and the Israelis knew that they could count on America as well. And when you do that, you put Iran in a box, and when you don't do that, you see the kind of things you're beginning to see happen not only in the Middle East, but all across the world as well.
Mike, we appreciate it. Mike Pompeo, of course, former Secretary of State, former Director of the CIA, currently a Senior Counsel for Global Affairs, the ACLJ. Mike, thanks for your insight.